Hi. In our last session, we were discussing about what is access control list, and how many types of access control list we have. That is standard access control list and extended access control list. Okay, and we tried with some of the examples as well. So in this session, we'll discuss about NAT. Okay, so NAT stands for Network Address Translation. Okay, so NAT transfer, network address translation. So it is used to map one IP to another IP address.
Okay.
Okay, it is used to map one IP to another IP address. Okay, so why we need NAT here? Because suppose in general if you are trying to access internet. Okay, so you are the user. Okay, so this is organization. So in the organization there will be many people, right? So if you want to
Yeah.
access internet, so inside organization will be assigned with some private IPs. Okay, okay.
Okay.
So but when you want to access internet, your private IP address won't be accessible over the internet, right? Your private IP address.
Yes.
So that's why this private IP will be converted to one public IP address. Okay, leave about whether one public IP address or like multiple public IP address, but you are converting from one IP to another IP address, right? That is called NAT, network address translation. So we are translating one IP address to another IP address. Okay,
Okay.
clear. So here this
Yeah.
conversion of IP address, either it might be private to private, private IP to private IP. Okay, or private to public, public, public to private, public to public also. It might be public to public also. So any of the reason it is. Okay, so
Okay.
what we can say, conversion of or mapping of one IP address to another IP address is called NAT. So the mapping of IP address, either it might be private to private or private to public or public to private or public to public also. So the context here is that mapping of one IP address to another IP address.
Okay.
Okay, so we will see when we go with private to private, private to public, all these things we'll discuss now. Okay,
Okay.
so here private to private I'm mentioning, right?
Yeah.
Suppose we have two organizations. Okay, so this is also organization. Okay, so consider that so here X, this is Y. So inside this organization we have the subnet called 10.0.0.0. Okay, so here also 10.0.0.0/24 is there. Okay, as an example. Okay, so suppose consider this network A, network X, and network Y. Okay, in network X is 10.0.0.0/24, and network Y also 10.0.0/24. Okay,
Okay.
so here if they want to communicate with each other, okay, suppose we have one computer here. Okay, it is connected to router, switch, router, and it is connected to here, and somehow it is connected here, right? And inside we have router, and this is the destination. Okay, A is the source
Okay.
and B is the destination. Okay, so here what happened,
Okay.
if you want to access from A to B. Okay, so here we have /24, right? That is 10.0.0.0/24. It means here we have the IP address starting from 10.0.0.0, sorry, 10.0.0.0 to 10.0.0.255. How these many IPs we have in this network. Okay, so in a similar fashion here in the network Y also we have the same subnet, right? That is
Yes.
10.0.0.0 to 10.0.0.255. Okay,
Hmm. Yeah.
so here if A want to access B. Okay, so what's happening here? I mean, source and destination APIs are both in the same subnet, right?
Yes.
So what will happen? So network, so when the traffic coming to hub and switch, when it comes to router, okay, so not even comes to router. Okay, before in the switch itself we have the routing table, we have the MAC address table, because a switch learns all the switch, I mean, to the switch only will
Not
connect all the
cable.
network devices, right? So we have this IP address here
Yes.
itself. So what's happening here?
Yeah.
Network loop is happening.
Okay.
Okay. This is one case. Suppose we have 10.1.0.0 only. Okay. So
Okay.
there is a chance that they will use the subnet also here. Okay.
Okay.
So
Okay.
like if you have like duplication of subnets addresses are there. Okay, if duplicates addresses are in the two internal networks, then what they will do, they will map this subnet into some other IP address which is not conflicting here, which is not used in this network. Okay, suppose here they are using 10.0.0.0.24. Okay, suppose if they try to access this, okay, it come out of the router, and when it's reached here, okay, the network conflict is happening, right? Conflict is happening
Yes.
now. So that's why they'll map this
Mm-hmm.
subnet into some other private IP addresses, 10.2.1.1, some subnet where it is not conflicting with each other. Okay.
Okay.
So in those cases also here what we are doing, we are mapping of one subnet to another subnet. It means that mapping
Okay.
of one IP address to another IP address, that is called like private to private IP addresses. See, nothing it is okay.
Okay.
So from private IP, if you are mapping with private IP, that is private IP communication only. Okay. And
Yeah.
so private to public I'm mentioning, right? So when you are trying to access internet, okay,
Okay.
okay. So here your private IP address can't be routable over the internet. So that's why you're mapping this private IP with public IP, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So this is like private to public scenario. Okay. Next,
Okay.
public to private. So public to private, what's happening? Suppose you have an organization. Okay. You have an
Okay.
organization, XYZ organization. You have some internal server. Okay. So internal means we'll give some private IP address, right? Private IP to the server.
Okay.
But this server need to accessible over the internet. Okay.
Okay.
But this private IP can't be accessible over the internet, right? So they will assign some
Yeah.
public IP address to the server. Public IP. Okay. So when you
Okay.
try to access the public IP address, we will act from internet, we can able to access, but internally this public IP address will be converted to the private IP address.
Okay.
You got this point?
Yes. Yes.
So we have some server or application which is running on the company, which needs to be accessible over the internet. Okay. So here, when you want to try to access, any application over the public network, that should be having the public
The
IP
public.
address. Okay. Because private IP address, it won't be accessible over the internet. So that's why they will assign with public IP. And from internet, when you're trying to access, it will be public IP address. And once it hits this organization firewall or router, this public IP address will be converted to the private IP address. Okay.
Okay.
This is about public to private. So public to public, in the same case. Okay, if you want to hide your public IP address, suppose here we're having one public IP, right? So you can convert this public IP to another public IP also to maintain more security.
Okay.
Okay. So if someone will see like what happens here, so public IP is there, right? Suppose let's consider that 1.1.1.1. Suppose 10.1.1.1 is the private IP of internal server. Okay. And this is assigned with public IP address. Okay. So sometimes if you don't want to showcase this public IP address, okay, then what you do, you can map this public IP address to some other IP address also. Okay. So here dual NAT is happening. One is private to public and public to public.
Okay.
Okay. So when users trying to access, they will hit this IP address 2.2.2, and internally it will convert to 1.1, and again 1.1, 1.1.1.1 to 10.1.1.1. Okay.
Yeah.
So like it's a kind of like a dual NAT or double NAT, we can call it as. Okay.
Okay.
So like what is
Here,
NAT? Yeah.
proxy
Yeah.
picture will come.
No, we'll discuss about proxy later on. Okay. Just like
Yeah.
what I want you to understand is that what is NAT, and like how the NAT is helping here. Okay.
Okay.
Is it clear?
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Okay. So like in NAT, we have many types. Okay. Like depends on how we are, converting from one IP to another IP address. Like we have the NAT discussions. We'll discuss about that. Okay, so
Okay.
here, if you can see, NAT stands for network address translation. It is used to map one IP address to another IP address. Okay, so and the next point is it is to convert either private IP address to public or public to private. So vice versa, we can say.
Okay.
Okay, and if you can see, when we need to merge two internal networks with a duplicate IP addresses, this point is there, no? So if you can see, like two duplicate addresses are there. If you want to merge, like these two networks, we'll use some IP address to map that network.
Okay.
Okay, is it clear?
Yes.
Okay, just a minute. So like when you are trying to access internet also, like so what's happening when we try to our private IP address will be translating to public IP address. So in your case also NAT is helping here. Okay,
Okay.
and
Mm.
like to reduce the overlap occurrence, in the sense, like here we have one same
Same
subnet, here also same subnet. So it's to avoid the overlapping, we are using NAT. This is about brief about NAT. Okay, so let's discuss about like why it's not coming out. Just a minute.
Mhm.
So this is about NAT, and let's discuss about the types of NAT. Okay, so we have many types in NAT. Okay, like like a static NAT is nothing but mapping of one IP address to another IP address is called static NAT. Okay, suppose like I was mentioning, right, like what I can say, one IP to IP translation. Okay, suppose we have like public, I mean I was mentioning, right, when you are trying to access a organization server, it will be mapped with public IP to private IP address only, right?
Yeah.
So like that is called like static NAT. Okay, so nothing, it is like mapping of one IP address to another IP address. Suppose we have one IP address that is 10.1.1.1. So mapping of this IP address into another IP address 10.2.2.2 is called static NAT. It means like one-to-one NAT it is.
Okay.
Okay, suppose if you can see in this example, so what's happening here? Okay, so so this is the internal server. Okay, the internal server IP address is 10. Where it is, yeah, consider that like the IP address of internal server is 10.1.1.2, and the outside IP address what they have provided is 63.63.60.1. Okay, so like what I
Mhm.
want you to understand here, like one IP address to another IP address is called static NAT. Okay,
Okay.
and next NAT is called like dynamic NAT. Okay, so here what happened, here we'll be having one subnet, here also one subnet will be there. Okay, suppose 10.10.0.0/24 network is there, it will be converted to 10.1.0.0/24 network. It means that it's the same subnet, right? Subnet is same. Okay, so here what's happened, 10.0.0.0 is converting to 10.1.0.10. Okay, 10.0.0.1 to 10.1.10.1. So if you can see here, okay, so see, dynamic NAT is like many to many translation it is. Okay, so instead of keeping like one-to-one NAT, what we are doing, we are giving a many IPs, that is /24 network, and it is converting to other /24 network. Is it clear?
Yeah.
So I know, like so, I mean at the end of the day, it's a static NAT only, mapping of one IP address to another IP address only. But how we are doing, by using many to many subnets, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So that is called dynamic NAT. Okay, and we have one more NAT called like port address translation, that is many to one translation. Suppose like many to one in the sense, okay, so this is your organization. Okay, so here will be having n number of users will be there, right? N number of users are there. Okay, so when they want to access internet, okay, so suppose these are the users. Okay, so each one will be assigned with some private IP address, right? Okay,
Yeah.
so when it comes to, suppose you are configuring NAT on the firewall level, okay, or router also fine. So when everyone in the network, inside network, when they try to access internet, all the IP addresses will be mapped with one public IP address only. One public IP address only. But however, suppose like this guy is accessing something. Okay, this guy is accessing something, but the traffic is going out with one public IP address only, right? But how it has to retransmit to the specific source means by using the port number. Okay, suppose when the traffic is hitting here, okay, the firewall, okay, if this guy is using A, B, if user A is using internet and the source IP address of this user is this one and destination IP is internet. So when it's going out, it will be assigned some port number here, source port. Okay, suppose 10123, something like that. And for this user, some other port 10213. So when the traffic coming back, it will send the traffic back by using this port number, like a kind of proxy, we can say.
Okay.
You got this point? Many to one means like inside the organization many IPs will be there, and we are translating that like all the internal IP address to one public IP address to access the internet. Okay, so that is called port address translation. Okay,
Okay.
is it clear?
Yes.
So apart from these two NATs, we are having many NATs. Okay, so we discussed about
NAT and PAT.
static NAT, okay, and dynamic NAT and port address translation. Okay, and we have some other NATs called like so these are the main three things. Okay, and after that we have like double NAT is there. Okay, and dual NAT is there. Identity NAT is there. U-turn NAT is there. Okay.
Okay.
So here we discussed like static means it's a 1 to 1. Dynamic means
like
many to many. PAT means
many to one.
Many to one translation. Okay, so here double NAT is nothing but okay. So here mapping 2 times. Either it is to source or destination.
Okay.
So what happens here? Suppose like we have one IP address. Okay, suppose as an example, 10.1.1.1 is there. Okay, so converting this IP into 2 times. So we are converting like 10.2.2.2.2 we are converting, and from here to 10.3.3.3. So we are converting 2 times, right? So double NAT is nothing but like converting this one single IP address into multiple 2 times, we can say, that is called double NAT. So this NAT will happen in some other whatever the device it is, but 2 times the NAT is happening, right? So that is called double NAT. Is it clear?
Okay.
That that converting either to source IP address or destination IP address, that doesn't matter. But convert like mapping 2 times, that is called double NAT. Okay. And one more thing is there, that is called dual NAT. Okay, so mapping both source and destination IPs is called dual NAT. Okay, is it clear?
Yes.
Double NAT is nothing but mapping one IP address into multiple times is called double NAT. Okay, either it is a source or destination. Okay, and dual NAT is nothing but mapping both source and destination IPs is called dual NAT. Okay.
Okay.
And we have one more NAT called identity NAT. Okay, so identity NAT is nothing but mapping of IP address to its own IP address is called what I can say, identity NAT. Okay, so like so what happened here, like what I can say, so suppose we have an IP address 10.1.1.1. okay, so suppose like we have 10.1.1.1 mapping of this IP address to own IP address, that is 10.1.1 only. That type of NAT is called identity NAT. Okay, so this identity NAT will come under like Cisco ASA. While configuring VPN, we could see that.
Okay.
Okay, so we have one more thing called like U-turn NAT. So U-turn NAT is it's a kind of logical path. Okay, so what we can say, so like suppose we have a server. Okay, we have a server that is having both internal and external IP address. Okay, so while accessing this server, which is inside the network with the public IP address, is called U-turn NAT. Okay, so it's a logical path that like what I can say is a logical path how users are accessing the internal resources by using the external IP address. Okay, internal resources, internal users accessing the internal server by using public IP address is called U-turn NAT. So like how the data, like how the path will come, we'll discuss on the later on. But this is about like different types of NAT we have. Okay, and some more things we have, that is source NAT. Okay, and destination NAT is there. Okay, source NAT is nothing but mapping of source IP address.
Okay.
Destination NAT is nothing but mapping of destination IP. Okay, so like ideally, I mean, these three are the NATs which are core NAT, we can say. Okay, static NAT, dynamic NAT, and PAT. Okay, static NAT is nothing but mapping of one IP address to another IP address is called static NAT, and dynamic NAT is nothing but many to many translation, many IP address to many IP address, and port address translation is nothing but many to one IP address. Okay, so these are the main NATs. Okay, and so based on these three NATs, we have again these kind of NATs we have. That is double NAT. Double NAT is nothing but mapping of one IP address into two times, I can say. Okay. So the suppose either source or destination is there, source or destination. Okay. So while traveling in the network, this source IP will be mapped to two times. One time with another IP, one time with another IP address. Either destination IP also like that. Okay. So mapping two times is called double NAT. Okay, and dual NAT is nothing but mapping of both source and destination IP address is called dual NAT. Okay, identity NAT. Identity NAT is nothing but mapping of IP address to its own IP address is called identity NAT. Okay, and we have one more NAT, that is U-turn NAT. So U-turn NAT is nothing but it's a logical path. I know like the internal resources using the internal server by using the public IP address is called U-turn NAT. Okay, and we have source NAT, that is mapping of source IP address is called source NAT, and destination NAT is nothing but mapping of destination IP address is called destination NAT. Okay, so this is about like NAT and different types what we have available. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
So so that's all for this session, and so in next session we will discuss about what is broadcast domain, what is collision domain, and we'll discuss about the differences between switch and hub, and unicast, multicast, and simplex, duplex, and VLAN, and VLAN ranges, and the port channel, and ARP and types, and packet traversal in the network. So by that, we'll end up with network basics. Okay.
Okay.